Because they will talk to you 15 times about shaken baby syndrome, but nobody would tell you how you're supposed to recover after your cooch has been ripped apart.
Yeah, you know what it do. You want no one, I want no one but you, my love.
What's good, you guys? I'm going to talk about labor and delivery, postpartum, everything that people don't talk about when you have a baby. Okay, so I just had my daughter. Aw. And truth be told, I am so glad to be done with pregnancy, labor, and delivery. I had a pretty rough labor and delivery, so I kind of wanted to share my experience to help some of y'all be prepared and at least have an idea of what you could possibly expect. So I'm going to share my story, the nitty gritty. I'm going to give y'all some points, and then I'll also talk about some products that help me out with postpartum. Prior to labor, I have 3 things. 1, have a birth plan. I suggest writing this no later than 1 month prior to your expected delivery date. Now, this would be your ideal birth plan. If everything went perfect, this is how you would like your birth to go. But we all know that, things ain't perfect. 2nd, prepare your birth bag. Now, I'm a little OCD with mine, so I started making my birth bag about 2 months prior to my actual due date. If you guys want detailed information about what I actually put in my birth bag, let me know in the comments and I can make a separate video. 3rd, hospitals really don't care about the dad. They give him a little chair in the corner and be like, you sit there. Most of them really don't even keep dad in a loop unless the dad is like proactively asking. And food, forget about it. Make sure y'all either bring some food and snacks, or you know where you're going to get food for dad, because they ain't gonna feed him, whether insurance covered or not. Okay, before I get into everything with labor and delivery, I just want to mention that everything I'm going to mention is not going to be applicable to every single woman in every single situation. I'm just putting out some things that maybe some people were not aware of. Like, I personally, this is my 2nd child, and I wasn't aware of some of these things with my 1st one. So moving on. So let's talk about labor. Ideally, my plan was to go into labor naturally, have a natural birth, and everything was going to be peaches and cream, right? Now, my baby was actually overdue, so I had to go and have a stress test done. And heart rate and everything was fine, but when they did the ultrasound, it showed that the amniotic fluid was actually low. So I had to get induced. Now, I really did not want to get induced, but for the sake of my baby, I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and do it. I had already started having contractions the day before. It was around 8-9 p.m., but they were not consistent and they did not increase in pain. So I get checked in around 5:30. I'm still having contractions. My contractions are actually getting a little bit more painful, a little bit closer together. So I'm like, okay, maybe I could just go into labor by myself. But after a couple hours, that did not happen. My first point is to make sure you drink plenty of fluids. After a certain time frame into labor, the doctors really don't want you eating anything. And I think that's because they don't want you to poop. And for most moms, when you're in labor for so long, you really don't even think about eating. However, you do need to stay hydrated. So drink a ton of water or chew on ice cubes and everything like that. Now, when it comes to drinking all those fluids, you will need to pee often. This is actually beneficial for you because when you go to the bathroom, it relieves a lot of pressure and pain from your bladder and everything. So it actually makes it a little bit more comfortable. After a couple hours, my labor wasn't progressing on its own. So they did go ahead and give me the medication to kickstart my labor. After I did get the medicine to start my labor, my contractions were going stronger and more often. Unfortunately, my baby's heart rate was dropping after the contractions. In some cases, that's a normal thing. Like, if it shows that the baby's actually moving down. But in this case, it was kind of showing signs of distress. And on top of that, then my blood pressure was also dropping. They monitored it for a couple hours and put me on fluids to try to increase the oxygen and everything in my blood. And that worked for a little bit, but then it just went back and her heart rate started dropping again. So the doctor said it was best to do internal monitoring. That brings me to my 2nd point. Internal monitoring may be needed. I didn't have this issue with my son in my 1st birth, so I wasn't aware of how this was going to go. After they broke my water, they had to literally go up in me and put the monitor on my baby. Yeah, that was extremely painful. My 3rd point is about being induced. Now, when you are induced, your labor tends to be harder and more painful. Picture having normal contractions and then multiply them by about 2 or 3. That was me. My next point is to please be aware of how you would like to manage your pain ahead of time. Now, some people choose to do 100% natural. Some people choose to have pain meds in their IV, and others choose the epidural. Personally, when I went in, I told everyone I don't want the epidural. I wanted to hold out as long as possible, and then if my contractions became too painful, then I wanted to get the pain meds in my IV. Unfortunately, this took a left. At this point, I'm approximately about 8-9 hours into labor. My contractions were pretty much super painful at this time, and I said, "Hey nurse, I think I want those pain meds now." So she went and asked the doctor, and the doctor stated that the pain meds they give you are very strong and it could cause baby's heart rate to drop even further. So they pretty much refused to administer any pain meds at that time. Nobody told me that. So the doctor said my only option at this point was to get Benadryl. Now I'm thinking to myself, I don't have allergies. What the is Benadryl going to do for me besides make me drowsy? The nurse said, "Oh no, it's not going to make you drowsy." What did it do? It made me drowsy. So I'm literally dozing out in between these super painful contractions. Now, as I stated before, this is my second birth, and I've had some very painful things happen to me in my life. This was the most pain I have ever been in. My contractions became unbearable, and I said, "Give me the epidural." She said, "Okay, they're gonna come in here and check you and make sure that you can actually still get it." And while we're waiting for the doctor to come in, some fluids passed through me, and I feel my baby head, and I'm just like, "Yeah, she's coming." So my next point is pick a pushing position and let it be known ahead of time. Now, I truly wanted to squat or be on all fours because I felt like that was the best position for a baby to come out the easiest. Unfortunately, I was in so much pain. When the doctors came in, all I did was just cock my legs open. I'm like, "Let's go." Unfortunately, this was also a bad thing for me because as I was pushing, my baby actually got stuck. I am telling you the God honest truth. At that point, I literally thought I was going to die. I am in excruciating pain. I am drowsy as from that Benadryl. And I done pushed with every ounce of energy I had left, and I'm just like, bruh, I'm not gonna make it. But I was able to push her out. I didn't die. Now, let's talk about after birth. My first point is lack of excitement. You may not feel super excited the moment you see your baby, and that is okay. Personally, I was not. I had went through 14 hours of excruciating pain. I'm still drowsy from this Benadryl. When they gave me my baby, she wasn't crying, so I'm trying to get my baby to cry. And then on top of that, the first 30 minutes of her being in the world, my legs are still cocked open because I got ripped and I had to get stitched up. It took 30 minutes to stitch me up. My next point is stitches. You may or may not get ripped, and if you do get ripped, don't freak out because it is actually pretty common. To let y'all know ahead of time, there are exercises that you can do, perineal exercises with your finger. Definitely just look it up on YouTube to kind of help with the elasticity of that area to try to prevent it from ripping. I actually did some of those, but obviously it wasn't enough. If you do get stitches, hospitals use the ones that dissolve, so they'll go away by themselves. You don't have to go back to the hospital to have them removed. And the type of care and how long your recovery will be depends on the degree of your tear. If you are getting any value out of this video, go ahead and tap the like button and hit subscribe. My next point is be prepared for your first pee. So when you pee, take this bottle with you. Fill it up with warm water and you squirt the hell out of that cooch. If not, it will burn and it will hurt very bad, especially if you have stitches. I purchased this from Amazon and I'll definitely leave the link below. Actually, all the products I'm going to mention, it will be from Amazon and the links will be in the description below for y'all. My next point is your first poop will be a struggle. For some people, it could be even the first couple of poops. I feel like after birth, constipation is inevitable. So when you go and poop, take your time, sis. You're gonna need to concentrate. A couple of things that would help is drinking a lot of water, eating foods that are high in fiber, and also taking them stool softeners. The hospital will give you quite a few things to use in order to help with recovery. I mean, use all of it. Take all their stuff because you really gonna need them. They do give you stool softeners while you're in the hospital, and then also some hospitals should also give you a prescription to pick up some stool softeners to use while you're at home. My next point is sitz bath. These will be amazing. Now you can use solely just warm water. However, I use a herbal sitz bath with a couple of herbs. I have yarrow, rosemary, lavender, calendula. Also put sea salt and Epsom salt in it. sit there for about 15 minutes. My next point is extra heavy, extra long pads. As I said before, the hospital will give you some things, and some of those things will be those big old pads. You change that pad all the time, so use up all their pads first. Also did purchase these pads from Amazon, which I really do like. I didn't have any problems with these. They didn't roll up or anything and mess up underwear or anything like that. So I purchased 2 packs of these, and then I had to use those for about a week or so, and then when I hit my 3rd week, I was able to switch down to regular. My next point is mesh panties or diapers. I didn't want to use the whole diaper thing, so I purchased these mesh panties, also from Amazon. Now, I used these for the first few days after labor. I think it was about 4 days. I really like this brand. I use about 1 to 2 of the mesh panties per day. The reason I really like these because they're not too tight and they're not too loose. They literally fit just right, and they don't lose too much of their stretch throughout the day. You don't have to worry about meshing these panties up because once you're finished with them, they are disposable. Go ahead and just toss them. My next point is period panties. Once I was done and I actually felt comfortable enough to switch underwear, I moved on to period panties. I bought these period panties. And I really like these because they're high-waisted, so they kind of help with your stomach too. Kind of help hold everything in place, and they held the pads in place pretty good. I didn't just use period panties by themselves. I actually put pads on. My next point is ice packs and padsicles. Once again, the hospital actually gave me ice packs while I was in the hospital, but then it also sent me home with about 3 of them too. I used those pretty much every day until I actually felt like things were healing a little bit better down there. Now the padsicles, I'll insert this video that you can see. It's literally using witch hazel and aloe vera gel and rubbing it in. You fold those back up and you put them in the freezer and let them freeze. Now, I took a gallon size bag and I filled it up with these pads. So when I came home and I was done with all the ice packs, I just went and grabbed those and used those when I felt like I needed them. My next point is dermaplast. I didn't have to purchase this. This came from the hospital. They gave this to me. This is one of my best friends. It helps numb the area when there's burning or when it's painful. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous about spraying it directly on me because I thought it was gonna burn. But when I had to go and poop, I was just like, listen, we gotta get this taken care of. So I sprayed everything, and it actually works really good. My next point, non-stick socks or house shoes. Once again, the hospital did give me 2 pair of those. If you want something that's cuter, or if you want something that's a little bit more fitting, then definitely go ahead and buy your own, or you can bring a pair of house shoes. Now initially you won't be walking much anyways, but you definitely want something to prevent you from slipping because you don't want to fall after you had no baby. Next, I'm going to talk about breastfeeding. Okay, so it can definitely be a challenge. It's possible you can have issues with the baby latching on. Now, if that's the case, or if you have any other random questions in regards to breastfeeding, definitely talk to the lactation specialist. They have those at the hospital, and they do come and check on you and ask you if you have any questions while you're there. They specialize in anything when it comes to breastfeeding because it's literally their job. Another thing when it comes to breastfeeding is that you will also experience contractions when you breastfeed. It's a give and a curse, right? Because breastfeeding actually helps get your stomach back smaller, get you back snatched faster, right? But it's going to hurt because your uterus is contracting more every time you breastfeed. One thing that does help with the contractions when you're breastfeeding is using a heating pad. I purchased this one off of Amazon, and literally when I was feeding my baby for like the first week and a half to 2 weeks, I would just put the heating pad pillow and I'll lean on the pillow while I'm breastfeeding, and that helped so much. Another thing when it comes to breastfeeding is nursing bras and nursing pads. Nursing bras are pretty much a must. I purchased these from Amazon, and I really do like them because I can literally just click them on and off with one hand. I would suggest if you do end up purchasing these, get a size smaller, because after you wash them a couple of times, the fabric around this area starts stretching a little bit more. When it comes to the nursing pads, I believe like the first week or so, I really didn't need to use them. I got these from Amazon too. My next point is swollen ankles, feet, legs, and hands. Now this is due to the excess of water that was in your body while you was pregnant, and your body is pretty much trying to flush it out through urine or sweat. Unfortunately, in the meantime, some of that water will hang out in your tissues, which will cause swelling. The swelling can itch too, and it could be uncomfortable, and it can also cause stiffness. Another suggestion I do have is these compression socks. These helped out so much for me because my legs swelled up so bad after I had my baby. My next point is dark spots. Now, some women do experience dark spots during pregnancy, and then after labor, some women do end up having a dark stomach. Some of those dark spots are due to the hormones, and then with the stomach, it could be both hormones and the stretching that causes it to be dark. However, these things will start disappearing after a couple months for most people. In the meantime, I do use a turmeric body scrub on my stomach and the areas of my body that did get a little bit darker. My next point is to have some snacks. Especially if you are breastfeeding, you will need those extra calories. So go ahead and just grab like granola bars and almonds or some extra fruit just to get your body to have enough energy because you're going to need it. Hair thinning or loss. Some women do experience hair loss or thinning during pregnancy or after birth. While this can be stressful, usually it's just temporary. Personally, I didn't experience any hair loss or hair thinning with this pregnancy or so far after birth. I did use my herbal scalp serum all throughout my pregnancy and to this day. If you have experienced any hair loss or hair thinning, I can definitely recommend using some rosemary because it is great at circulation, which promotes hair growth. My next point is snapback. I know we have this whole idea of like everybody needs a snapback, but everybody's journey is different. Just like everybody's body is going to adjust accordingly. My results won't be the same as this person's results, won't be the same as this person's results. Honestly, just take your time. At the end of the day, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to listen to my body. My next point is actually asking for help. Bring a home baby, a lot of things change, especially your sleep schedule. If you can't do everything on your own, that's perfectly fine. You shouldn't have to either. You literally just had a baby and you're trying to recover physically and you're trying to get into a new routine. Like, that's tough. Definitely reach out to friends, family, whoever you need to, and ask for some help when you need some help. And the last point that I have is self-care time. It don't have to be right away, but eventually you need to schedule some self-care time. Even though you are a mom, you are a woman first. Self-care time don't necessarily have to be going out spending a whole day at a spa. Like, personally, I have some self-care time at home. I'll do a home facial, I'll do a DIY hair mask, a mani and pedi, something just to make me feel better as a woman and take care of myself. I hope this helped anyone who's about to be a mom. If you're preparing for labor and delivery and everything, congratulations. I wish y'all the best, and until next time, mwah.